Good afternoon. My name is Sergeant Kevin Kwan with the Scottsdale Police Department, and I want to thank you all for coming today. With me today is Scottsdale Police Chief Jeff Walther, Attorney General Brnovich, and DEA Special Agent in Charge, Sherry Oz. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Scottsdale Police Chief Jeff Walther.
Thank you, Sergeant Kwan, and thanks to everybody for being here today, whether you're here in person or whether you're watching via our live stream. This really is a press conference about a couple of different things. And the first thing that's really important, I think, for everybody watching and who's going to pay attention to this is really about those collaborative partnerships that we have in local law enforcement with Scottsdale PD and our embedded partners in the Drug Enforcement Administration and the Scottsdale DA Task Force, and the commitment from our State Attorney General to vigorously follow up on these investigations and really be part of our overall team. That is a message that I think sometimes gets lost in the things that we do, and it's that partnership at all levels in the state of Arizona, be it our state partners or municipal partners or our federal partners, that really bring us to the success that we have today. And what you see before you is part of that success, but it comes at a cost. And so let's discuss that a minute. Over the past few months, the Scottsdale DEA Task Force has undertaken an investigation related to the Sinaloa cartel. That entire drug trafficking organization that has been operating within the Phoenix metropolitan area. That investigation from our detectives and DEA agents uncovered a courier, a singular courier, and in watching that courier and investigating that courier ultimately led to the seizure that is before you today and a number of different residences and storage lockers located in the valley. That seizure, if you look at it in front of you today, is nearly 1.7 million fentanyl pills, or about 360 pounds of fentanyl. Okay? It also included 10 kilos of powdered fentanyl and 1 pound of methamphetamine. Total estimated value of the drugs in front of you is $9 million. But that's not really the story, I think. If you look at this, and I think my partners will agree, is that this is not necessarily about what these pills. The pills in front of you are death. That's what they are. And I think sometimes we need to speak that truth to one another because that's what's important here, to recognize that these drugs in this form, and fentanyl, which has really hit the market for us, is what is driving our opioid crisis, not just in Arizona, not just in this region, but across the country. And there are enough pills here that would move throughout Arizona and throughout this part of the country and the rest of the country, quite frankly. And so that's how we need to look at this. This is not a recreational drug. This is death. And I think that's what we need to focus on today. I want to thank my partners from the Attorney General's office, the Attorney General himself, from Special Agent in Charge Sherry Oz from the DEA, and the incredible partnership that we have with the Drug Enforcement Administration, and the support that we have at the federal level from the Drug Enforcement Administrator. We could not do this without the collaborative effort that we have with each other, and we need you to help us be that mouthpiece that this is not recreation. This is death. This is what is driving our opioid crisis in the United States. I thank you for being here. I want to turn the time over to our State Attorney General, Mark Brnovich.
Thank you all, everyone, for being here today. And let me begin by reiterating what Chief Walther said, that this is an example of federal, state, and local officials working together to keep our communities safe. And so I think this is cooperation, law enforcement cooperation at its very best. And frankly, we'd like to see more of this, not only here in Arizona, but throughout the country. I also want to thank, and don't show them on camera, but the brave men and women of the Drug Enforcement Agency, as well as the Scottsdale Police Department, who every day put their lives on the line in order to keep our communities safe. And they are the unrecognized heroes so often in what's going on in our communities. As the chief mentioned, we know that there are more than 1.7 million pills that were seized. We know that when you look at the amount of 9 to 10 kilograms of fentanyl powder that was seized, you're talking about more than 4 million more pills that could have been made. I want to put that in context. We're talking about more than 6 million fentanyl pills. That is enough to kill more than half the population of the state of Arizona. This may be in Arizona's backyard, front yard today, but it is coming to the rest of the country. And that's why these efforts, these collaborative efforts, are so important. As the chief mentioned, we know that these drugs are being produced and brought into this country by drug trafficking organizations south of the border. We know that the Mexican cartels have taken advantage of our porous border and are pouring record amounts of drugs into our country. I know as a prosecutor, and I was a gang prosecutor for years, that when we see the price of drugs like fentanyl and the price of drugs like methamphetamine falling in our communities, that's a result of demand. When you look at the price, the wholesale price of these fentanyl pills, what they're going for on the street, we've seen a dramatic decline in that price. So every time these pills get in our community, that means someone's son, daughter, niece, nephew, parent, grandparent is at risk of killing themselves. Put it in context, 2 milligrams of fentanyl can be a lethal dose. So when you start looking at these numbers, the number of these pills, it's something that sometimes we can't comprehend. And we have to remember, these are not statistics. These are people in our community, hardworking people of Arizona. So it breaks my heart as an Arizonan when we see the price of things like gasoline and groceries rising, and yet the price of these hard drugs, these dangerous drugs, are flooding in our community, and they're dramatically increasing. And that means that there's going to be a cost in human lives, and there's going to be a cost financially and socially. And so I am very proud, once again, to partner the DEA, Special Agent in Charge Oz, Chief Walther, to continue to work in a collaborative way to make sure that we working together are doing everything we can to keep our communities safe. And once again, thank you to the brave men and women of law enforcement, federal, state, and local law enforcement for everything you do every day that doesn't always get recognized. Thank you again. All right, and let me now turn it over to Special Agent in Charge, Sherry Oz from the DEA, who, thank you very much. Thanks, sir.
On December 14th, 700,000 lives were potentially saved with the seizure of nearly 1.7 million fentanyl pills right here in the Valley. DEA's priority is saving lives. One pill, one time can kill. My name is Sherry Oz, and I'm the DEA Special Agent in charge of the Phoenix Field Division, serving the state of Arizona. Criminal drug networks are fueling this unprecedented overdose epidemic, flooding our communities with counterfeit fake pills. And this year, DEA has seized a record quantity of 20 million pills. U.S. overdose rates are devastating, claiming 100,000 lives. That is a life lost in this country every 5 minutes. Every 5 minutes, we lose someone to opioids. A few months ago, using a multi-pronged approach, DEA launched the One Pill Can Kill campaign in conjunction with a public safety surge. Enforcement with seizures of drugs, money, and firearms, arresting traffickers, and most importantly, public awareness. Over the last 2 months, DEA and our partners nationwide initiated a second public safety surge, targeting those responsible for flooding our communities with this deadly fentanyl. During this 2-month public safety surge, on December 14th, we seized close to 1.7 million fentanyl pills and 10 kilos of fentanyl powder that you see right before you today. And that was just one investigation right here in the Valley. What is alarming is that 4 out of those 10 pills contain a potential lethal dose. This is a record one-time seizure for DEA in Arizona. In total, during the 2-month surge, we seized 3 million pills, 45 kilos of fentanyl powder, over 35 firearms, and arrested over 40 drug traffickers. As the Attorney General stated, their cases are increasing, and so are DEA's seizures. Since January, DEA has seized over 9.5 million pills right here in Arizona. This number has far exceeded last year's totals of seizures. I can promise you that DEA and our partners will not stop. We will keep going and we will push harder, but we really need your help. It is more important now than ever before that we continue to work together to turn this epidemic around. talk to your children, your friends, your neighbors, your loved ones about the dangers of these deadly pills. Like the chief said, we are dealing death right here. One pill can kill, one pill, one time. The only pills safe are the ones prescribed by your doctor and dispensed by a pharmacy. As a mother, I feel it's an important piece of information for parents to know. Drug trafficking is evolving, and traffickers are using technology to get into your homes and sell pills to your children and loved ones. This is happening every day. Right here in Arizona, traffickers are using social media platforms, posting emojis, and coded lingo that have specific meanings. We urge you to talk to your children about these dangerous pills, watch their social media, and educate yourselves on the dangers and lingo of the online emojis being used. DEA.gov is a great resource for you. One Pill Can Kill has a toolkit that everyone can use to learn about the dangers and get the facts. Let's keep the conversation going, turn this epidemic around, and save some lives.
Thank you. We'd now like to open up to some questions if you guys have them. We'll try and keep them short, though.
With so many cartels in Mexico, obviously, how are you guys so sure that it comes down to the Sinaloa cartel?
So the Sinaloa cartel primarily uses the trafficking routes that run through Arizona. We're confident this is Sinaloa cartel narcotics.
We're in the valley.
Where in the valley was this seized? I don't think we're disclosing that at this time. But look at the size of these pills. And it's important to note, this is a box that you could keep your Christmas decorations in. And in this box is enough pills to kill thousands and thousands of people. Very small pills can be contained anywhere. They're in your neighborhood, they're in your community. You have to help us turn it around.
Do you believe this was a final route, or it was being used as a order to spread to other parts of our country?
Phoenix is historically known as a repackaging and distribution area. Most of these drugs were destined for other parts of the country. We do feed a large part of the country.
You guys said you mentioned you arrested over 40 people in the search.
I'm sorry?
Around 40 people were arrested in the 2 months.
In the 2 month surge, right, that was just DEA, correct.
Were they mostly Hispanic or various as far as
Drugs don't, they don't care. So whoever has them will take them.
So Attorney General Brnovich pointed out that the lower cost of prices is definitely a factor to the quantity here. Are there any other factors you feel to the quantity of drugs seized today?
Yeah, the point I was making is that anytime you have more supply of any product flooding into a market and the price is decreasing, that's an indication that we're seeing more and more of it. And so that's what breaks my heart as a parent and as a prosecutor. And so I think the ability of the cartels to ramp up their production, and because of the porous border, we're seeing more and more drugs flooding into our communities. And as we know, these drugs are not only affecting Arizona, but they're going to affect the entire country.
Do you have any other questions?
If you guys had to send a message to those that were responsible of bringing these in, what would you guys tell them?
I can promise you that the men and women of DEA and the men and women of the Scottsdale Police Department and all of our state and federal local partners, we will not stop. We intend to keep you protected and safe, and we will do everything that we can to make sure that our communities that we're saving lives in the community.
And I would just add that, as I said earlier, there's been a lot of discussions this past year about the pandemic, but really there is an epidemic right now in our country and in our community. And when you see places like Pima County where opioid and fentanyl deaths now are the #1 cause of deaths of people under 19, replacing even car accidents, you can't help but cry for all those parents and grandparents whose hearts are being broken as a result of this epidemic that's sweeping our community.
I wanted to add to that. I think what you have to look at in front of you is not just a drug, it's not just pills. What you see in front of you, if we're honest with one another, is that this is a destabilizing influence in our country. It's a destabilizing influence in the state of Arizona, and there's a reason for that. And you have a lot of the opioid crisis in the United States, a lot of drug addiction in the United States, and if those across the border can continue to push this destabilizing influence in our country, we're going to continue to see, in our task force, we're going to continue to see these record numbers of seizures, because this is just flowing like a river into Arizona and then has tendrils that go around the country. So I think we just need to be honest with one another when we have these conversations, that this is, yes, this is drugs, this is not recreational, this is an intended destabilizing influence in our country, that there is supply and demand, that we could talk about why till we're all blue in the face, but this is a destabilizer, and that's what we have to look at it as.
Well, thank you everyone for being here today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. We'll go ahead and end our news conference now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everybody. Thanks. Thank you again.
So there are a couple